All right. It is my pleasure now to be joined by Brooks Bollinger. Brooks, how are you doing today?
Doing great, man. Excited to be with you.
Appreciate you taking the time, man. I'm sure being a director at Bell Bank does not leave a whole bunch of time to be doing things like this, let alone having 5 kids. So I really appreciate you finding a way to squeeze me in.
No, it's great. I really enjoy these conversations, and I think we're all kind of better for having them. So excited to meet a new person and see where it goes.
I appreciate it. There's so many different places to start, but I guess if I can, I'd love to jump right into the Wisconsin days. You're able to, because as good as it is, I love the adversity that's sort of wrapped up in your story from having to your red shirt your first year at college. So your redshirt freshman year, then second year on campus, you're following up a great, number 4 finish for the team, but the team starts 2-2. There's a little bit of, is this going to work? I'm not even necessarily the guy, but the run that you go on, can you just walk us through to kick this off, how those first 2 years at school went for you?
Yeah, I had a unique perspective because my dad was a college football coach at the University of North Dakota, and at that time in their program, and probably pretty redshirted, or at least 99% of the young men that came into their program. So I went into college, and being from Grand Forks, there's, I wasn't super highly recruited. I didn't come in with huge expectations to play right away. So the red shirting wasn't a problem. There's kids that came from other places that had different expectations that I saw struggle with that. For me, I already was of the mindset I was going to use it as a year to get bigger and stronger, and focus on school and frankly some social life, building a little foundation there. But it was really a fun year to wrap your arms around it and build a foundation. And then that spring ball, we had a senior, went to the Rose Bowl that year, was great. Just kind of got to watch the whole thing. Unbelievable experience to be around the people I was around. And then that spring, the senior Mike Samuel graduated, and then Scott Kavanaugh and I, who was a senior, were competing going into spring ball, right, for the next season. And we kind of finished spring ball neck and neck, and I had a good spring and finished strong. And then kind of through training camp, it became obvious that Scott was going to kind of be the guy to start the season. So we kind of went in, those first couple games, and we were preseason highly ranked again, 3 or 4 or 5 in the country, something like that. So we were splitting reps, and it started to feel like it was a little far away for me. Cav was playing quite a bit. I think those first couple games, I played a series or two. Played Miami of Ohio and somebody else, and then we went to Cincinnati. And Ron Dane was favored to, or at least favored to, be a Heisman finalist, and a big deal going into his senior year, chance to break the all-time rushing record, all that kind of stuff. And we went to Cincinnati before Cincinnati was, who they are today, frankly. And we got upset, and they tore down the goalpost. And I played 3 plays in that game. I played 1 series, and I was 0 for 1 with an interception. That was my stat line. And the world everybody was just like, oh my gosh, it's obviously a devastating loss for the program. And I was like, man, I'm probably going to be sitting back for a little bit, and probably not going to see the field. And then the next week we played Michigan at home, a 2:30 ABC game. That was Brady's senior year. And Drew Henson was actually sharing some time with him. So I wasn't expecting to play. Well, Scott Kavanaugh got hurt in the third quarter, and I had to go in the game. And didn't play perfect, but played well and almost brought us back. And that was when the switch kind of flipped a little bit for me of like, okay, that was the biggest stage I had stepped on to the field in. And I made some plays and I felt like, okay, I can do this. And I felt that momentum, even though disappointed we weren't able to win the game. It was inside of me, it was a little bit like, okay, this is possible. And maybe I'm closer than I thought. And they told me like Tuesday of that week, you're going to start, this week we're making the move. And I think, I don't even know if Cav could have played, elbow was hurt or something. And it's like, okay. And that happened to be at Ohio State at the Horseshoe. Well, that was my first start. And, it's a pretty cool place. I hadn't even traveled to many games yet because I had redshirted the year before, and walking into that place was pretty special. And again, it was a 2:30 ABC game. It was juiced up. It was just unbelievable atmosphere. And we went down very quickly in that game, 17-0. So we weren't doing much on offense. I was playing pretty conservative and tentative, I would say. And then at the end of the half, we went on a 2-minute drive, made some plays, kicked a 3, and came on the second half and scored 39 42-17. I haven't seen the official, can't really find it anywhere. And Ohio State fans tend to kind of dismiss the Cooper era a little bit, but I don't know that there's many worse beatdowns at the Horseshoe. So that was kind of when the whirlwind started, man. I mean, it was our next 8 games and the Rose Bowl. And so it was kind of like all of a sudden that happened, and you're getting interviewed by Lynn Swan on the field after the game. You go like that, and you're talking to Keith Jackson and Dan Fouts sitting at the Rose Bowl. So it was quite the whirlwind. And then I think as a starter, I won my first. And listen, I was a good player. I knew how to manage the game. I fit what we were doing. We had a great running back in Ron Dane. We had unbelievable defense, special teams, kind of old school Big Ten football. And I was just able to fit in and manage it. But it was a pretty good run. Went into the sophomore year. I think the first loss was at Michigan the next year. So I think as a starter, I won my first 14 or 15 games, which is interesting looking back. It all went so fast at the time. But it kind of reminded of it with Graham Mertz this year, a highly recruited kid that won his first couple games and played off the charts. And I kind of watched him deal with that early success. And then things kind of unraveled for them as the season went on. But it's an interesting experience to have that much success at a young age and early in your career. So that was something that was certainly a learning experience for me. And then, from there, those were our best teams early on in my career at Wisconsin. We had, kind of had some good years after that, but it was a little more choppy and never really got back to success until I was gone. But yeah, so that was kind of the beginning for me.
It's just so crazy to me. And I'd love for you to just speak a little bit more about the mental aspect of going from the guy that literally is going 0 for 1 with a pick, getting in for 3 plays a game, to the darling of the Rose Bowl in 1 year, like literally just a few months. I mean, what was it like for you just trying to keep a level head from like trying to keep your confidence up through a bad, outing to like all the pressure and all the accolades and the praise that comes your way from going on this ridiculous run?
It's a very complex thing. I've spent, not just through that, but through my whole career and since it's ended and having lived it and gone through it, I've spent a lot of time and now, having been a coach afterwards and being a financial advisor for a lot of players and watching them go through that transition, when it's over, I'm really fascinated by it. I think there's so much we can take from it and learn from it. and just like a lot of things in life, we don't always, right? We kind of just push it aside. But I think it's complex in the fact that, you know, for one of the trappings of having so much success so early is it's not like you had a bunch of intentional behavior and worked hard with a goal in mind to earn something and to get to that place. You haven't had a chance to really sit back and watch and understand what I need to do to make me successful. It just kind of happens. So I think one of the trappings of that is there's kind of some insecurity that comes with that deep down, because, you know, you're just like, well, maybe I'm this good, maybe I'm not, hopefully. And I think what happened to me in my career is I kind of had to go through this phase where you start protecting something, right? You're like, well, now just don't screw it up, right? Like just hold on to this and protect something. And which is really impossible to play the game of football that way. And it's not, it doesn't lead to growth, right? I think what I learned is that all there is growth, right? The success, the failures are going to come and go. All you can take from them is what you can learn from it. And how you measure yourself is how you grow from those things. And I think that's really, it took me kind of my whole career, I think, to get to that point, because really I think where the true confidence comes from is through putting in the work and growing from both the successes and the failures. And that's also what's fulfilling, you know? So, you know, naturally my confidence came from my teammates. My purpose for playing was to win for the team. I just grew up that way. So that part of it was natural for me. I will say, you know, I think that in some ways it was almost like getting pulled outside your body though, and just kind of watching it happen and knowing that, because I don't think anybody really, as much as they dream or work for things, you know, they kind of see this, well, this is who I am. I'm Brooks, and I'm this kid that my identity is wrapped in these things. And then there's this other person that's like, you know, and, you know, going to the Playboy Mansion and whatever else because you had this success. And I think it's a very dangerous thing. And it's how over time, one of the hardest things for athletes, even we see with young people now, is your identity naturally gets wrapped up in how the world sees you. And I think it's really difficult, and folks have to be really intentional to make sure that you understand that this is what you do. It's not who you are, you know. And it's a very difficult thing. And yeah, I certainly wrestled with that. I think I didn't, you know, I was a couple time captain and all that kind of stuff. And I, you know, but, you know, looking back and knowing at the time, like, you just know that you left some meat on the bone, probably, to what you could have been if you had been able to be a little more mature and handle things slightly differently. But I think you also got to accept that that's life, right? You live it forward and you learn it backwards. And, you know, it's my belief that one of the things we learn through a lot of pain, because you know, it's not easy to fail. And I think of the two things I'm probably most thankful for in the opportunities I had playing athletics is, one, the relationships. I just got to meet unbelievable people and be around them and just do really fun, cool stuff. And the other is I got to fail at an accelerated rate. You know, I think a lot of people go through life and you just don't get that. You don't get to go fail every day and then be evaluated kind of publicly, or at least amongst your peers, on such a rapid clip for so long. And I think it's, for our egos, it's really hard to deal with. But I think as I look back, you know, learning how to deal with failure and success to a certain, well, I would say probably as much so success. But I think I didn't struggle as much dealing with success as I did dealing with failure, and really taking everything you can from it. And what I believe today is that, okay, when you fail, or you make a mistake, what should you do with that? And I think human nature is protect yourself, even as a parent now, right? Protect your kid from it, protect yourself from it, put it away, and move on, right? And kind of bury it. And I think when you do that and you don't confront it, it hangs with you, and it's somewhere back here in your mind, and it influences your future behavior. And I believe with both the successes and the failures, okay, how much time should you spend on them? It's, taking it head on and then spending exactly as much time as you can take everything you can learn from it, and then you let it go, right? Is like go in, and this is just the football analogy, right? You take the emotion out of it, you take the person out of it, you objectively look at it, you're like, what's everything I can learn from that outing or that play, and wrestle with it and grapple with it. And then once you've got everything you can, it's gone. And I think that's what it means to be a pro. And I think that's important for us to learn in life too. But it ain't easy.
No, it's not. Beautifully said. I mean, there is so much there. The one follow up that I'd like to ask you is, just when you played, it's not like it was that long ago, but it was before social media in what that untamable beast is today. I mean, do you think
Thank
that
God.
had, do you think that if this landscape, this technological landscape that we have had been the very same as it was back in, 2000, when you're rolling through Rose Bowls, how much different would, because you said you spoke so much about the successes, the failures, and trying to be introspective through what you're doing and learn from it. How much now does your ability to, or a young athlete's ability today to speak directly to their followers and their fans, and the pressure that they also get now from everyone that they can now connect to, how does that completely change the equation?
It's hard, you know.
That's really all you can
there's so
say.
there's so many reasons that I am glad it didn't exist. um, then I'm certainly glad they didn't have the video cell phones at the KK, at bar time. And, but also just the playing stuff is, and you see it with kids now. And we kind of touched on it when we were talking about identity is, it's really easy to start to get defined by the outside world and the perception, and really take your eye off on the ball on the reality and the stuff that you can control as you grow and fail. Don't really have that ability now, and I mean you do, but it's a lot harder because you can get canceled if you do the wrong thing, or say the wrong thing, or have a bad game or whatever. It's kind of like it's out there, and it lives, and you get defined by it. And I think that's a dangerous thing, not just for athletes but for young people. And in some ways, I kind of had to live that way before these kids had to live that. I mean, I remember getting an email. That was like my day was like they just started having like the message boards and kind of that kind of stuff. And I would never look at it, but your parents and whatever, they'd see stuff and people would just hammer you. And then I, um, you'd get stuff here and there, but you had to read about it in the newspaper, right? Like it'd be like, you're an athlete at that school, you're 19, 20 years old, and you're getting treated like a pro athlete. Like they're going to tell you when it's bad and they're going to tell you when it's good. And then you go to the New York Jets and you play in the New York media, and like you just got to learn to deal with it. And you go out to dinner after a game in Madison, and like, shoot, those first 15 games, like it was sweet. Like you're like, this is awesome, right? They like me. Well, then you play bad, and you're out for dinner or out after, and people just they don't hold back, man. And that's in person, not just when you had an online presence. But I got an email on I remember laughing about it with my roommates. Was this guy's like, dear Mr. Ball and Suck, please stop sucking so bad so me and my friends can go back and watch the game. We are unable to watch the game currently because you suck so bad. Da 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 da. And like, it's hard and you got to wrestle with it. But like in some ways, I'm I'm thankful for it. And now, like, kids have to deal with that are now, it's not the same as public, but in their world it's public, right? Like it goes out on social media, something they did that, wasn't good or bad on the field, and it's out there, and it feels like the whole world is judging. They start to identify themselves with those things. And that's what, happens to us as athletes sometimes, even prior to social media. Well, now, for an athlete, they can just get so obsessed with it, and I think it goes back to the same thing we talked about earlier, is you gotta now more than ever, even with young kids, you have to know who you are. Things I didn't think about till I was 30, right? Identity and purpose and core values and all that stuff, which is great. Now you're 14 years old, you better be wrestling with it, because it's such a more accelerated, slippery slope than it was before. And you just don't get the opportunity to grow and learn these lessons slowly over time as you mature and kind of fail. And the other thing I would say on top of that is we've gotten so soft in how we parent our kids and how we teach them in school and even in athletics, that we try and protect them from everything. So now you got this Molotov cocktail, right? You got a world that's much more harsh and impacts them much more directly at a young age. And you got their immediate world that's trying to coddle them and protect them and lead them to comfort all the time. So it's just like sheeps to slaughter. You know what I mean? And that, to me, that's why it's those conflicting things that are like why we have such and I'm sure there's a lot of reasons, but I think at a core reason is why the anxiety, depression, etc., of our young people is grown so fast, is kind of from those conflicting things. So I just tell kids, I'm like, my kids, I'm like, and they got, their mom's a college athlete and she had 3 brothers, and she's pretty direct, let's put it that way. But I tell my kids, like, you can't hide from it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this is out there. Let's deal with it. Let's go face on. I'm not going to protect you from what the coach said, or a tough loss, or an embarrassing thing, or something you did. Like, you got to learn to face it. It's unfair because you got to learn to face it at a younger age than you should. But man, is it dangerous when we try and protect kids from it. And I think that's the path we're on.
Definitely. And again, very well said. I couldn't agree more. I did want to pivot just a little, though, to when you go to the NFL. You walk into a situation where essentially you get a red shirt again, which allows you to sort of digest how things are going to be different compared to the college game that you're used to. Can you speak a little bit about, having guys like Chad Pennington, Vinny Testaverde, later on Jay Fiedler's there. I mean, true veterans, guys that I've heard tremendous things about. How did it help you to have veteran guys at your position, not just help you be a good pro athlete, but also, I'm sure, to an extent, help you be a mature individual, since they were, particularly Vinny, so much, older than you were?
Yeah, I think I did the math. Vinny was like, I think I was thinking about it. I was like, he's been in, we're sitting in quarterback school or something, right, in the off season, and I mean, he had almost been doing it since I was in diapers, right? So I was thinking of how many years he had been kind of in that quarterback school off season, and I think I was like 2 or 3, years old when he actually started that NFL career. But, it was a thrill of a lifetime for me, to be honest. I think after going to Wisconsin, and same thing, kind of like leaving high school. It wasn't, I'd had a good college career, but I mean, I always say I played in the NFL with an accountant's body. Like, I wasn't a highly touted guy, 6th round pick. I had enough talent. I probably didn't have the right mindset. I was just so thrilled to be there, and just be in the room with those guys. And I was such a football junkie, to have Paul Hackett, who had, was one of the best teachers I'd ever been around, and had been with Bill Walsh, early days in San Francisco on the West Coast offense, and um, Jim Hostler, who was, our quarterback coach, who had been around, and then the list kind of goes on from there. But I mean, having Chad and Vinny sitting there at the start of my career with those guys and just talking football and learning the game from kind of square one, it was one of the coolest things in my life, outside of anything. Was just, I loved just learning the game that way. And it was a blast. And they're great people too, right? So on top of it, you get to go into an environment where you saw how to be a pro, you saw how to be a good husband and father, and just kind of a good person in the community. So it was a thrill. And like I said earlier, that just goes on. You mentioned Fiedler, and then Gus Farrat and Brad Johnson, and there's Kelly Holcomb. There's so many guys that, and then some that you didn't even play with. The coolest thing about the NFL is, it's not a huge fraternity of people, right? So, and then you kind of boil that down to, backup quarterbacks, or even just quarterbacks, or, and just the guys you got to know across the league over time, even just a little bit, and the stories and all that stuff. You have such a similar kind of path. It's just a really cool fraternity to have been a part of. And I'm super thankful for it. I don't think I probably had the right mindset to fully maximize what I could be from those guys, but I learned a ton, and I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Yeah, I think I even saw that Cliff Kingsbury had crossed paths with you for, maybe it was just like an off season or something. But I mean, like I don't know what your experience was, but like the fact that you crossed paths with someone that goes on to become, a prominent college coach, then, an NFL coach, when, I don't know if you did even cross paths with him or talk to him, but it's just crazy how things change over time.
Yeah. And well, I mean, even though I'm out of the game now, like Cliff, we have mutual friends. We did cross paths. We had fun. And I think he got one snap in the NFL, and I got hit in the head in Denver. And I think he came in for a play. I don't know if that's true. I'd have to check it. We have a good buddy that's a mutual friend, and we've kept in touch a little bit, and consider him a friend, and know some of the guys that are on his staff, and have worked for him over the years. And I know it's still so fun. So in my job, my last firm specifically, we were working with a number of professional athletes and NFL guys, and I used to go to the combine every year, and that was so fun for me because I was kind of grew up as a ball coach, and I had done it for a little bit in my career, and I just know so many of those guys because of the time I played and the people I played with. Like you mentioned, Cliff. I was with Sean McVay, one of his first jobs at the Florida Tuskers, Jay Gruden, Kevin Stefanski, Darrell Bevel, Brian Schottenheimer. There's just all these guys that you kind of cross paths with, and it's so cool to watch those guys go on and have the kind of success, and still have enough of a background in that game that you can at least follow the conversation, right? And still jump into some football conversations and talk about philosophies and 2-minute drills or some things like that. So it's fun for me. There's I love what I'm doing now, and I love where our family's at, and whatever, but there's always going to be a part of me that just identifies with kind of that world, and really enjoys the people in it.
Of course. And, to that point, I wanted to ask one question that leads to, who you are today, as someone that's been a coach, and obviously essentially a coach for your 5 kids. To tack onto that list of names, I mean, there's Brad Childress. I believe Eric Bieniemy was on one of those
Yep.
staffs as well. Of course, when you're
Mike
in Dallas.
Tomlin.
Oh, I mean, the list goes on forever, but I want to make sure I say Herm Edwards too, because I love that he's, at Arizona State now. Wade, Jason Garrett, on and on. When you think about all of those guys, when you became a coach, and as you know, you just even thought about how to be a professional outside of sports, do any in particular stand out to you as guys that you sort of, and let's throw your dad in that conversation, Coach Alvarez of Wisconsin. I mean, who were you pulling the most from, if you could actually think about how your style evolved over time?
I think the way that I've always looked at it is, um, I think it's a blend, and the trying to draw. I think we all have our skill sets, right? And there's all those guys you listed, just like all of us, have things they're great at, things they're really good at, things they're good at, and things that are probably, not a strength, right? And so I think that for me, it was trying to look at each one of those people and understand, wow, he's really good at this, right? He's really good at on game day calling plays. How do you, you know, what's his process? How do you emulate that? This guy's really good with the group, and understanding. Like I said, Paul just was like his son of a professor, I think at UC Davis, and he understood how to sit there and teach, right? Like teaching progressions, and that kind of stuff. So I think more than anything, it was learning from the good and the bad, of from all those people, and just trying to pull what you can. So I don't know that there's certainly people that had more influence on me because of the stage of life, right? Like Coach Alvarez, Mike Berg was, well, go all the way back. Like you said, my dad's staff was unbelievable in North Dakota. And I got to hang out as a kid every day. Like that was just normal for me. And these guys, a bunch of their staff went on to be head coaches and just great coaches. And, you know, I got to just be around it every day. So that was a huge kind of the culmination of that, and the totality of it. I think it frankly is just made me who I am today. It's hard to even point to I was this and then I took this and this from people. It's just like, I don't know, man. I'm not super talented. I'm not super smart. I'm just kind of I'm a coachable person, right? Like that's my success was I'm coaches. And the same thing as a person is I just was like, oh wow, I just naturally took those things from those people and build who I am today. So good, bad, or different, that I can probably blame my faults on them too, I guess.
And to your point about being coachable, isn't that everything? And this is what, sports does. The longer you play, the more people you play with and surround yourself with, you see what works, what doesn't work. And as long as you're coachable and you're aware of what's going on and what works, you can really build some scaffolding to kind of attack anything that you want. Which is why I wanted to pivot toward what you're doing now, this path post football life that allowed you to be, a director at Bell Bank, a fiduciary advisor. How did you tackle what was next after being an athlete?
It's not easy, I mean, I think so. I kind of was like Jordan or Favre, I had a couple of retirements. So, I quit coaching, or I quit playing, and I took a head coaching job here at a high school called Hill Murray, and just had a magical season, magical run. And I was going to raise money in the school, and kind of that was it. And then Paul Chris called me, and he had just got the job at Pitt. So I took it. That's what I always wanted to do, is be a college coach. So we went out to Pitt and did that for 2 years, and things were going well. And I guess, in the quarterback room, and calling some of the plays and stuff, and being close to Paul, you're kind of on the fast track once you get to that point in the coaching profession, right? And I never saw. I was just gone too much, and I just saw, between my wife and my kids, I'm like, this time is gonna go really fast. My oldest was 8 at the time, and I was like, this next decade is going to go fast, and I'm not going to see him. I'm not going to know my kid, and he's going to leave the house, right? And maybe we're going to have 5 moves in that 10, I don't know. And it just wasn't the life. So I basically jumped out of the plane with no parachute, right? I told Paul, I said, I got to be done. My wife's like, what the hell are you doing? And I said, I just can't do this another year, because I know that at some point it's just snowballing, and I'm not gonna be able to stop the train. Right. So I knew at that moment, at least I thought, who knows? I mean, but my perception at the time was I cannot go another year. So that second season at Pitt, that was it. We moved back here. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. So I met with everybody under the sun, all the former athlete stuff. Again, being my second time through it, I just said, I'm gonna leave no stone unturned. I'm gonna have every conversation. I'm gonna humble myself and just try and educate myself. Now, my message to athletes is, you need to understand and start doing that from the beginning and developing that side of yourself, even when it's going on, because just delayed the amount of time it's going to take me to be successful in whatever I'm doing next, right? And because you got to learn, you don't know anything until you get your hands dirty, right? And so I got my hands dirty, and I met with everybody. I knew I'm kind of a purposeful person. I knew I was a teacher and a coach, kind of in my core. And so there was a few things going. I thought I was going to do some sexy stuff, and it was going to be cool. And buddy had a 501c3 starting up. Another buddy had a startup company. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get my Series 7 and my 66, because I don't quite understand what this industry, through the lens of the locker room, I kind of said, I think this industry is a little bit of bullshit, and I'm not quite sure it's providing the value prop it should be to athletes, right? Specifically. So I'm like, I'm just going to get my licenses. I knew a little planning shop here, and I'm going to help some guys out and see where it goes, along with all this other cool stuff. Well, I think by then we had our fourth kid, and I learned pretty quick. It's not easy to make money, right? And especially to be 34 and building a career from the beginning. So pretty soon I was doing that full time, right? Like trying to build my career, build my brand, and really got into it, and had some success with athletes. And then, really understood and started to see that although the athletes have an accelerated income arc, and it's more kind of exacerbated issues are very similar to that of a business owner. And some of the other folks out there in the world, it's just, it's in a different case, right? So I've started to have some success with business owners, and joined a couple different firms, and then ultimately just found Bell it's a family owned, privately held. I think we're the 8th or 9th largest privately held bank in the country. And they're actually based out of North Dakota, and we're growing fast, and just unbelievable culture and people. And I said, hey, now I can do what I'm kind of enjoying. Plus, what I always grew up doing was being a part of something bigger than myself, like, the team. Because I need that. I can't just go build a book of business. To be honest, it's not how I'm wired. It's like I really feel better and thrive when I believe in the bigger organization and the team. So that's what brought me to Bell. And I think the thing for athletes that's the hardest is that you forget how hard you worked to become how good you were at your sport, right? Because you had a lot of talent, but then it's just, since you're 9 years old, like there's just this time and these lessons and things you learn to get to the best in the world, right? And then you made a little money, and people treat you different because you're relevant, and it's cool, and what you're doing is cool. I mean, you're the best in the world, like that attracts people, whatever it is. So you just naturally, the people that live on your block that have important jobs, the people you talk to at school and the golf course, like they've been doing it their whole lives, and that's who you're hanging with. Well, then all of a sudden that's gone, and you go to enter this new realm, and you have no idea what you're doing, but oftentimes as athletes, your network is up here and you think, well, I should be able to go from here over to here, and I'm smart. And what the world basically says is, listen, we like you and like you're gonna do something good, but you really gotta go back to the beginning. And you're gonna make no money, and you're gonna have to work your way up. And you're like, wow, I'm 34 years old and I got all these experiences, and I gotta go, do not pass go, do not collect $200, like start at the bottom. It's like, wow, all those folks when I was 19 or 20 and you win the Rose Bowl, and they're like, dude, I'll hire you in a second. Da, da, da. Then you go meet with them, and they go, yeah, oh, that's great. I'd love to. Economy's a little tough right now. And you really got to get this kind of these first two steps first, and you'll be great. Like, let me know how I can help. Okay. And I think that's so humbling. And that's so hard for athletes because you just haven't been there for so long. Okay. I'm going to go way off the reservation here. The Jordan Peterson 12 rules for life, right? I don't know if you're familiar, right? But
I am.
so he talks about it, right? And I thought this was the comparison I draw. He talks about the lobsters. He got a lot of attention because he talks about hierarchies and he's talking about lobsters. But he said, and I'm going to go quick on this, so don't waste you can always delete it too. But so like, with a hierarchy and with these lobsters, it's true for us as humans, right? Is you fight for the best things, right? Like you fight for food and shelter and a partner and all these things. Well, every time you win that battle to get the better space or the better food or the better partner, like there's dopamine replaced in your brain. It reinforces, makes you more likely to win. If there's, if you lose, whatever the chemical is released, and you're more likely to continue to lose, right? Like it's way beyond us even as humans. It's just reality. So those lobsters that get all the way to the top, and they got the fat, penthouse and the best food and the best looking women and all the stuff, right? Well, if they get defeated and they got to go back to the bottom, it's literally their brain dissolves and they grow a new brain, right? Because what they know and what they understand in that world, they cannot function back down at the bottom of the hierarchy. Like they wouldn't even be able to operate. So they literally dissolve their brain and grow a new brain. To me, it's the exact same thing, right? When you're an athlete and you're used to, this is how the world has treated me, this is how it has gone, I have to go back to zero. You just got to dissolve your brain. And ideally, you've spent years leading up to this point developing your second brain, for lack of a better term, right? Like it's already, you're starting from here. But the moment for me is when I realized was like, okay, I'm not just trying to do this job and get and so I can rise back up to this level. I'm actually got to put the work in and sharpen my blade and hone my craft. And that's where the fulfillment's going to come from. Okay. And I just got to believe that just like in sports, just like I did in my life, over the course of 20 years, I need to now apply that to this and shut up and put my head down and get as good as I can at it and learn and get my hands dirty and grind. Especially in the social media world, we just want it so fast because we're getting off the train here and we want to get back to that same stop, and we just want it too fast, and we actually lose the best, most important, most fulfilling parts of it, which is to work your ass off, develop yourself, and get good at it, right? But
Definitely.
so it's been a fascinating journey. It has not been it was not easy for me, as it's not easy for most guys. At the same time, like I'm so thankful for all of it, because of the things I've really had to wrestle with. And I'm thankful for it. Like, my buddies, so I'm 41 now, but you're 35, 36, and you're like they were when they were 22, right? Like you're back at the beginning. They're just hitting this stage in life where they're over the hump. They're making good money. Their career's pretty set. They know their path. And you're like, what the hell? Wait a minute now. Like, I was the guy and you were just some slappy at this company, and now you're VP and doing all this crap. How do I get there? You know, and you're having to be in this middle of your life just going like, oh shit, who am I? What am I going to be? How am I going to get there? And but I'm thankful for that. I honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way. And the other thing for athletes that's hard is, and this is a little unfair, but it's kind of the world's way of getting back at all the, you know, success you kind of had. And, you know, but the world kind of looks at you and goes, oh, it's easy for you. Right. It's like, no matter what you do, oh yeah, well, and had the world handed to him because he, you know, played in the NFL and whatever. And it's like, no, you guys are missing it. Like, that's not the case. So it's been fascinating. Just all my buddies, all the guys I've worked with, thousands, you know, just so many of those guys that I know. And there's probably only a handful, I would say, that I know that really had it wired. I would say for 95%, 98% most, it's just a hard transition. Just like people that are big time CEOs at companies for 30 years and then they retire, right? They're a lot older, but it's like, it's gone. It's different, you know? So,
Well,
oh,
man,
shoot.
I know you have a hard stop. I could go on forever because it's been such a great conversation, but thank you so much for taking the time. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yeah, let's keep in touch, man. I appreciate it and look forward to catching up. Take care. Thanks for having me.